We want to continue on with our study of the Jewish situation, and we've been looking at Israel in prophecy for several weeks now. And let me just go ahead and say this, because I can feel it. Several of you already know that our class is being podcasted. We're going to probably start doing this on a regular basis every Sunday. And because there's a number of people who would like to hear our class that can't be here and so forth. And I think it's a great idea. I'd never thought of it until
Where's
somebody.
it at, on the homepage at Olivet Baptist?
Yeah, it's linked up there with when you can access Matt's sermons. I think there will be a link for the class. So I think it's just a great, cool idea. But don't let it hinder you whatsoever in asking questions or being involved with the class, things like that. Because it ain't going to hinder me from being whatever it is I am. The handwriting will not get any better because it's on tape. So don't let anything bother you or interfere with that. But I gave you a whole list of scriptures last week that we will talk about, and as well as probably several other variations of some verses related to the victory of Jesus by his coming. Now, it should be an obvious answer to have. But what is the reason that is bringing Jesus to actually physically appear to fight on earth? What is actually the reason that he's doing this? What to you stands out as the reason? Why is he coming to fight?
He ain't got no choice.
Okay.
His father sent him.
A-I-N-T ain't got no choice. And I heard someone say, what?
His father sent him.
Okay, Father sent him.
They've had enough. They've fed it.
Had enough. Okay, what else? These are great answers. They really are. They're great. And they're all true. They're all very true.
His people have no one else.
His people have no one else.
Basically, it's coming for us.
Yeah. That would be his people.
Us.
Yeah.
Only because of his promise.
I think the podcast has helped your writing, Bill. Look.
Thank you. yeah, I'll take it. I'll accept it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. After it starts drying, it'll look a little different. Yeah. But indeed, there's several, as we've noted, there's several reasons why Jesus is having to come back to fight. And primarily, of course, it will be to rescue his people from destruction, and by that set up his physical kingdom on earth. But there are several components, there are several aspects to this returning, involving all of these reasons of his returning to earth and coming back to fight. And it's important for us to remember that the status of earth and its population at this time, when he does come back, will be moving towards some sort of world control and or risk of global physical and environmental catastrophe by mankind through its science, commerce, and sheer arrogance. One thing about the reign of Antichrist that the scriptures that I gave you to look at last week point to, they infer, they hint at. They don't directly state it, but there's clear indications of it, that Antichrist and the false prophet will have developed a society that will, especially in the latter half of the Great Tribulation period, seek the complete obliteration of the concept of God and in substitution of that, institute the worship of man and money. Revelation chapter 17 and chapter 18. Two passages that are very clear on this. And he'll do this through deception initially. Daniel, and these are some of the passages I gave you last week. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 and 10. Revelation 13, verses 1 through 18. He will have initialized his takeover with a deception, with a lie. And people will be given over to that because they don't want to believe the gospel truth. Paul is very clear in 2 Thessalonians 2 that the lawless man, the man of lawlessness will reign and will do what he wants to do, and people will believe him because they will have been given over to a lie because they refused to believe the gospel truth. And after the revival with the Jews begins, whoever he is by name, will begin to show his political, social, ultimate plan, and by force and power he will begin to rule, and that will be his standard operating procedure. Daniel chapter 7, verses 24 and verses 25 talk about this. Now, what he will do will be a result or a culmination or a response to the things that are occurring now in our world and that will occur. And I'm going to give you an example of this. And let me just be clear. In talking about these things that may be coming to pass, when I talk about, Ray Kurzweil, when I talk about some of the quotes that I'm going to give you from Ian Morris here, it is not that I am prophesying, that this is the way it's going to be, but it does give us an example of just how things can come about. So that's why I share these points with you. And I'm going to start, and this is going to be a quote. It's going to be a little bit long, but I want to read it to you. And it comes from Ian Morris, and the book that he wrote is Why the West Rules for Now. His premise of the book is looking through, from the last ice age is where he starts it off, about 14,000 years ago. And he takes it back and forth of the social development between the West, which was at one point in the Middle East, moved into Northwest Europe, and eventually into America, and the East, which would have been China, Japan, those areas. That's in a nutshell what a 700-some page book is about. So I'm going to read you a quote because this gives to us an example of that statement that I mentioned, that Jesus will be coming back, and Antichrist at that time will have a society and a situation that he's promoting that will really be leading to the total catastrophe of earth. In the 21st century, social development promises or threatens to rise so high that it will change what biology and sociology mean too. We are approaching, and all this is a quote from this book, we are approaching the greatest discontinuity in history. The inventor and futurist Ray Kurzweil calls this the singularity. By about 2045, 30 years from now, Kurzweil thinks computers will be able to host all the minds in the world, effectively merging carbon and silicon-based intelligence into a single global consciousness. This is the singularity. We will transcend biology. All this talk of transcending biology, critics charge, is merely playing at being God, to which Craig Venter, one of the first scientists to sequence the human genome, reportedly replies, "We're not playing." DARPA's Silent Talk project is working on implants that will decode pre-verbal electrical signals within the brain and send them over the internet so troops can communicate without radio or email. That's interesting. Now, just heard on the NPR this week, within the last couple of days, they were talking about something. I just kind of come in the middle of the program. There's about either 15 or 60,000 people, I can't remember the number, people in America who have Parkinson's that have electrical implants in their brains to help alter the signal that creates the tremors and all of these things. The military, and this is what was interesting about the report. The military is funding further investigation into that so that they can, and I can't remember exactly the phrase, but it was medically oriented. But the military never funds stuff just for the sheer medical benefit of it. There is a military component to it. And it seems to sound a little bit like the Silent Talk Project to me that Ian Morris talks about in his book. But these electrical signals will be so that troops can communicate without radios or email. One National Science Foundation report suggests that such network-enabled telepathy will become a reality in the 2020s. 5 years, 7 years, 10 years from now. Craig Venter's ambition to synthesize life succeeded in manufacturing the Earth's first synthetic self-reproducing organism. Hard as it is to get our minds around the idea, the trends of the last couple of centuries are leading toward a change in what it means to be human. All the evidence, or strictly speaking, the lack of it, then points to nightfall, and I'll explain what that phrase is. Nightfall by 2045, the centenary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the bombs that were dropped there. He goes on to say, by a slightly unsettling coincidence, 2045 is also the year Kurzweil nominated for the Singularity. Now that's a long quote from this guy. But the idea of changing thinking about what it means to be human is ingrained in current social and genetic trends. I think all this discussion about the redefining of what it is to have a family, redefining marriage, all this that we've seen over the last number of years around same-sex marriages and all of this that has become so much in the news, as well as the tinkering with the genetic makeup of a child's parent, so that through in vitro fertilization, with the experimentation of altering the types of genes included in an individual at birth, with up to 32 different gene inclusions in a baby being touted as a possibility. There's a researcher at Duke that is doing this. Instead of having two parents, you've got 32 contributors. Who's your daddy? Who's your mama? Who bears responsibility? Well, no one. No, it's a redefining of what it is. Who's going to take that over? Who is going to lead and help raise these children? It's a redefining. It is taking away what has been established understanding for thousands of years. But because we have the technology to screw with it, we're redefining. And we're saying, and when I say we, in society, we, us, humans, we're saying we can remanufacture what it actually means to be a human being. We can change this, as Kurzweil and as others say. We're not playing, well, not Kurzweil didn't say it, but Venter said it, and Kurzweil said it this way. When he was asked, do you believe in God? He said, not yet. Man's God. Venter said, we're not playing God. We are being God. That's right now. That's not, way off in Revelation somewhere. That is right now in the world that we're living in. Now, I said about nightfall. Nightfall is a term used by a science fiction writer named Isaac Asimov. You may have read some of his books. He wrote this book in 1941. So, he wrote like 90 novels and all this other stuff. And it refers to, as Ian Morris describes it, nightfall is a cataclysm that overwhelms all responses, destroying civilization and hurling humanity back to square one. Ian Morris says the only thing that will count between now and 2045 is the race between a singularity and nightfall. That's what people are saying now. Now, yes, we've all heard, the world's going to come to an end and we're going to have a huge nuclear war. We've all heard all those things. But the scale of what is happening in scientific circles and genetic, medical, biology circles is taking what could be happening in the world to a whole nother level. What is being aimed at is like the Tower of Babel of old, Genesis chapter 11, the glorification of man to the complete disregard for the knowledge of God. It is interesting to me that with this discussion of nightfall being a cataclysm that overwhelms all responses, destroying civilization and hurling man back to square one, Revelation chapter 8, when the events of Revelation 8 begin to happen, humanity will look at this as the nightfall. And Antichrist will be able to have an open door to say, I've got the answer. You don't have to fear what's happening in the skies, on the earth. I've got the answer. And everybody will say, yes, he does. You got to follow him. We have elections coming up. We have presidential elections coming up in a couple of years. What do we want in America? We want some real leadership. This man's going to offer some real leadership. And there will be multiplied millions that will say, yes, he has got the answer. Vote for him. That's what they said of Adolf Hitler as well. He's got the answer. There's just a little bit of baggage that will come along with it. And Antichrist will be the same way. So, with all that good news, questions, comments?
I'm sure they're showing this as a wonderful medical thing because then we can eradicate all of these issues that humanity has.
Yeah. Kurzweil in his book is very clear that he sees what he's advocating for as being the answer to world hunger, being the answer to disease. He says if we can figure out a way of injecting the nutrients that our body needs into us and having maybe photon-enriched abilities to move those nutrients through our bloodstream, you don't need a stomach. You don't need a heart.
I've also seen a video that was an advertisement for implantable knowledge in children in school. They're already doing it in lab rats that have a microchip that's implanted in the brain and built up in a computer where they can put in knowledge for the rat. It can go through this maze without ever been through it before.
I mean,
And it was showing it for children. These children are going to have this, and it's going to be played on. Well, these children are going to be able to advance faster than children that don't have it.
and they probably will.
A friend of mine had an implant in his heart this week. He was tested. He has no pulse. His heart doesn't beat. This is the pump.
Something.
Pumps the blood to the elbow. That was weird.
Yeah. See, this stuff that we're talking about is not out there. It is here.
And there's nothing we can do to stop it.
No, because it's not political. This is science. This is education. This is biology. This is investigation. This is What we want all of our little kids to grow up to be able to do is really become very educated and knowledgeable and able to find a place. Well, part of that place is doing this type of stuff. And there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. You know, a man not have a pulse, but still he's alive. I mean, doesn't that just kind of sound and feel a little weird? I mean, he's probably kind of glad of it himself, you know. But at the same time, what is behind this is that you don't need a heart. You don't even need God. Good grief. We can handle it ourselves. We're smart enough. We're going to get there. This business and this junk of God has got to go away. Because look at what we can't do. That being put into play. And when you start opening these doors, you can never close them again. You know, you open that Pandora's box, it's open. We have the ability, we have the knowledge to do so many things without really thinking about the consequences of those things. This is why we talk about global warming, and as far as I know, sure, global warming is happening. Whether it's our fault, or whether it's just part of the cycle, or whether it's part of the providential work of the end time, I don't know. Don't know. But we have the ability to totally destroy our earth with all of our great technology. And we're bound and determined to try to do whatever it is we want to do. And then we'll worry about the consequences later. Because we're smart enough to get over the consequences. Is what we think. It's that arrogance.
Sounds like the Tower of Babel.
Sounds like the Tower of Babel, Genesis 11. God says, scatter yourselves out. They said, no, we're going to go build a tower so that we don't get scattered out. And we'll build it up to heaven. In other words, we're going to take over this God business. We're saying the same thing now that was said how many thousands of years ago the Tower of Babel was. So, why is he coming back? Because we are determined to do without him. And if it destroys the whole earth, as long as we can say we did it without him, we will be glad to do that as a people. As weird as that sounds. Now, it's been raised, and we've talked about it a number of times. How will we know that the mark of the beast has arrived? And can we be fooled into taking that mark? And I think we've already seen from our discussion this morning, implants that you can not have a pulse and you're still doing fine. There's implants being investigated to be able to be put into a child's mind so they can learn faster. And once again, if you can begin to use telepathy, as the military is wanting to do, over the internet to attach that little chip that's in your brain, it can add a whole lot of things to you as well as control what you agree to, what you will have allegiance to, what you will follow. Bypass morality because it will define the morality for you.
Bypass conscience.
Bypass conscience because it will be the conscience for you. That little voice in your head will actually be a voice in your head, you know. You know, I'm hearing things. Yes, you are hearing things, you know. And it is interesting. Remember last week we looked at the article in USA Today about extremist Christianity and how we need to be on guard for extremist Christianity in America. That's worse than Islam. That's worse than the Muslim radicals is extreme Christianity in America. It was in that article, remember?
And Billy, historically, and I'll never forget a teacher saying this, the Middle East was fine until this fellow called Jesus came along. Because and Jesus doesn't promise a peaceful life. And not that we're to be violent, that's not the point. But if Jesus is there, there's conflict because you are forced to make a choice. Yeah. It's not, you know, as we speak of love, he demands a choice. Yeah. And people don't like that conflict. They don't like having to make a choice.
No, I want the peace and do it my way.
Right.
Yeah, not God's way. And Jesus himself said it. He said, I did not come to bring peace on earth. I came to bring a sword. And it is all about that peace on earth that was talked about at the birth of Jesus is the peace with God. And that only comes from a surrender to God. It's that choice. The little implant chip that will be put into us somewhere, either on our hand or our forehead or somewhere, will be something that will probably bring a lot of good to the person who has it, but at the same time, this is where it comes into the answer to that question. Can we be fooled into it? Is it something that can be snuck in on us? No. One of the things about Satan, and it's always been true about sin, is that it is arrogant. Satan doesn't want to just, he'll start it out with a deception. But the scripture says in Revelation chapter 16, or chapter 13 rather, verse 16, chapter 13, verse 16, also 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 10 through 12, that it is something that is forced. It is forced. Satan is going to want the world. He's going to say, you will surrender to me. You surrender your will, your conscience, your morality. You surrender your choice to me. You take this, you can buy, so you can sell, you can have health, you can have all the things that technology is giving you, but you will surrender your will to me to do it. And that's why, once you take the mark, there is no salvation for you.
So it's not involuntary putting it on children.
No, no.
It's got to be.
There may be chips that are,
decided.
but at some point, he's going to want you to surrender. He's going to want that willful, voluntary statement that I belong to you. Hitler made all of his troops in World War II, before the war started, they all had to swear personal loyalty, not to Germany, not to the government, but to the Fuhrer. They swore loyalty to him. He had to have that. And that's the weakness of sin as well. Lucifer was thrown out of heaven because of pride, and it hasn't changed. He still wants to say, I will win. I will beat you. And these are the people that I'm going to do it with. They have chosen to serve me instead of you. So, no, I don't think we'll be fooled into it. I think we'll be pressured. I think there will be a lot of lie out there that will lay the foundation for that. But at some point, before that device, whatever it is implanted, it's going to be very clear. You are surrendering your ability to think to me.
It's along the same lines of when Satan took Jesus up on the mountain and said, I'll give you all this.
Yes, exactly.
Bow down and follow me.
Exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
same concept.
Same
We're the
principle,
Same thing.
yeah.
Satan will bring it to us and say, here,
Yeah.
do this, and I'll make you a God.
Yeah. I'll make you as great as some of these other people, you know. And with Revelation 8 having happened, the destruction that God is going to bring on this earth, he's going to sound awful good, Antichrist. His plan is going to sound awfully good. But it's going to be that decision. Yes, I will accept it.
But there's going to be a lot of pressure with that.
A lot of
You
pressure.
can't buy, sell,
Can't,
ostracize.
yeah, you can't, yeah, you will not have livelihood. You know, look, you know, once again, even though Hitler is a poor example in a lot of ways of an Antichrist, Antichrist is a lot sharper and smarter than he ever was. But still, like he did the Jews. You can't have a business, you can't do this, you can't do that. You ended up in the ghetto, all these other things. That is where he'll want to hem in true believers during that period of time. So, why is Jesus coming? Because of all of this, and because of how the world wants to be without him. And Jesus himself said in Matthew chapter 20, 4 verses 21, 22, I think it is, he said, except the days be shortened, no flesh would be saved. Satan's ultimate game is to destroy earth, to destroy humanity, because God created humanity. If he can destroy all the people, he still wins. You can still say, you'd have to start it all over again, God. Why is Jesus coming back? So, as a result of the war of Gog and Magog that we talked about last week or two, and the Jews' victory, along with Antichrist, they will be one together. The victory will be given by God, but Antichrist is going to take credit for it. Sounds like a politician, doesn't it? The rest of the world will see Antichrist and the Jews as a problem to be rid of. And this is the message of Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 through 45. The kingdoms of the world, not under Antichrist's direct rule, will rise up to destroy both him and the Jews that he has supported, and that have been a problem for millennia. And this thinking will come as a result of the actions under the sixth vial or bowl of wrath, Revelation chapter 16, verses 12 through 16. In that passage, the passage talks about the river Euphrates being dried up. Not so much as something that's militarily needed, but it will be a symbolical action that will help seduce the kingdoms, the governments, the armies of the east to descend on Israel. Euphrates has always been given in Scripture as part of the boundary separating the promised land from other areas. And as such, its drying up could be considered as a sign or an omen or serendipitous to the enemies that the clout of Israel is gone, especially with Antichrist breaking his covenant with them, because the Jews have begun to realize he's a false Christ, and they've begun to turn to Jesus. And all of this is going to lead us to the battle of Armageddon. Now, questions before we go there? You feeling good? It's awful quiet out there.
Easter Sunday, we gotta have something more cheerful than this.
Something more cheerful than this.
More cheerful than
And the thing about it is, this is good news. Because all this is stated, it's going to happen. And Jesus said, when you see these things come to pass, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. And you might say, well, it might be like, would you please come? But he will. And the battle of Armageddon will be a victorious battle. It'll be a tough battle, especially for the people of the world. Now, there are 4 primary passages that talk about the battle of Armageddon's location. I'll give you these passages. 4 books. There are several passages, but 4 primary books of the Bible that talk about this. Isaiah chapter 63, verses 1 through 6. Daniel chapter 11, verses 36 through 45. That passage comes up in so many different ways. Zechariah chapter 14, Revelation chapter 14, verses 17 through 20, chapter 16, verses 13 through 16, and 19, verses 11 through 21. Those are the primary passages. There are other passages that may allude to the battle in some ways in Scripture, but those are the primary passages that talk about this. And it seems that the Battle of Armageddon will initiate, as Daniel states in chapter 11, with the king of the south. Now, who is this king? We don't know. Probably the leader of a confederated group of what now would at least be Muslim countries. Even though they got whipped at the Battle of Gog and Magog, they've not been totally destroyed. They will regather because they want to try it again. It was a fluke, whatever. And the king of the north, probably another confederated group of nations. And this is currently, as I said, the Islamic states in the north and west of Africa, which would be the south, and possibly of an unknown confederation from the north, again, perhaps Russia, Turkey, all of that region. And as they attack Antichrist and his forces, and he moves to engage and defeat these confederations, Daniel chapter 11 actually talks about this. It says that the kings of the east, he will hear a report from the east. The kings of the east, this goes into the book of Revelation. The governments of the east will move. And these, in all probability, would be forces that are not aligned under the direct rule of Antichrist. As already said, Antichrist will not be a deceptive person as far as the religious part of it to these countries, because they already don't believe in Christ. And all of these forces will begin to move together to have this one basic purpose: to defeat Antichrist and to exterminate the Jews. And Revelation 14 tells us that the battle will rage 1,600 stadia, is the phrase, which translates to roughly 180 to 200 miles, running kind of a north to southeast direction from the plain of Esdra-Elon, the mountain of Megiddo, or Armageddon, that's what that word means, and runs kind of southeast of that to modern Basra, which would be in probably maybe southern Jordan now. So this is the main battle front. Now, will it be just one straight line? No, but probably major battles will take place at the plain of Esdra-Elon. Major battle take place in the southern part, as well as attacks from all along the line. Not so much just a straight line, but roughly those are the two major places, so which makes about a 200-mile front with that. And these will form the battle line of the nations gathering to fight against the Jews and Antichrist. And once Jesus begins to return, they all will turn to fight him. So, give you some. That's the 180 to 200-mile stretch from Armageddon, that's Armageddon, to Basra. Antichrist is coming in to fight against the king of the north, the king of the south. The kings of the east are coming. They're all looking to get rid of this little piece of property right in here. When Jesus begins to come back, they all turn their focus to fight him. That's the Battle of Armageddon. And it's interesting because we all think about and hear about Armageddon. It's a word that's used all over the place now. But it's always used in the sense of total destruction. Well, it's not going to be total destruction. The Battle of Armageddon is the victory of Jesus Christ coming back to earth. It is his descent from heaven and his destruction of all these forces that are trying, one, to destroy his nation, Israel, and Christianity on top of that. It is his coming to deliver, to rescue, and to establish his kingdom. Now, here's the order of battle.
Billy, are you
Yes.
talking about this is physically going to happen? What your map kind of says is below Turkey and east of Jordan. Is that kind of where you're at in the Palestinian?
Yes.
countries? That's where this battle is physically going to take place?
Yes. This would be,
Because Turkey's to your north, right?
right.
Okay.
Turkey would be right up in here. You got, this is Syria. You got Iraq, Iran. I appreciate you calling this a map. I really do.
Well, the second part is that I can really read this. It's in your west, your east.
Yeah.
You're west of Jordan, so your east, depending on how you're looking
Yeah.
at it.
South.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's-
This is Jordan all up in here. Israel would be right in here. Egypt, all that there. Yeah, so I appreciate you calling them out. That's a good thing.
Saudi would be the kings of the south, probably.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia would be aligned with the kings of the south. Yeah,
That looks a lot better there, Billy. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that simplified it a lot when I added those extra lines to it, didn't it? Yes. But yes, this is the physical event that will happen. And here's the order of battle. This is probably about all the time I will have to give you, but there's 7 basic steps to the order of battle. And I'll just go over these, and if you have a question, please don't hesitate to stop me. As a result of the last 7 bowls of wrath, Book of Revelation, Antichrist moves to the final solution of Israel, its complete obliteration. Step 1. The larger goal, step 2, of the dragon, Antichrist, and the false prophet is the bringing of all nations together, not only to destroy Israel and God in this world, but God himself. The nations may well be intending to rid the world of this tyrant as they gather to fight, but they will all bond together to fight the invasion of this alien, Jesus. Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 through 45, Revelation 16, verses 13 through 16. Step 3. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 1 and 2, states that in this battle, Jerusalem will fall. Now remember, in the Battle of Armageddon, Jerusalem is not even touched. That's chapter 12 of Zechariah. 2 separate battles. That's why I say Battle of Gog and Magog is not the Battle of Armageddon. Although there are some commentators that will say that. But Zechariah 14, 1 and 2 states that Jerusalem will fall, houses ransacked, women raped, half the city being taken. The battle for the destruction of the nation of God, Israel, will be felt as nearly complete. The destruction of God's people is on the verge of being taken care of by the world. Step 4. Matthew chapter 24, verses 29 through 31. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 6 and 7. Along with Isaiah chapter 2, verses 6 through 22, chapter 24, verses 1 through 23, 33, verses 1 through chapter 34, verse 15. All those passages state at this time the heavens will darken, the very heavens will be shaken, and it will be a unique day. That's in Zechariah, that's his phrase. It will be a unique day, without daytime or nighttime, a day known to the Lord. When Jesus descends, it is going to take over what is the normal cosmology of the sun shining, the moon shining, daytime, nighttime. His descent will be of such power and of such magnitude, it's going to alter what earth sees from these celestial bodies, if you will. Revelation, this is step 5, Revelation 19:19. The gathered armies will then focus on their common enemy, the rider on the horse and his army. All of these folks look up, and they change from fighting each other right now to fighting him. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 3 through 5, verses 12 through 15, and Revelation 19, verse 11, and right on down. The Lord engages the combined armies and nations of the earth. Now, the Battle of Armageddon is not going to be some kind of hand-to-hand combat and bitter struggle as if Antichrist could win this thing. No, it's going to be the total, virtually instantaneous destruction and victory of these armies. For as Jesus descends and his feet touch the Mount of Olives, Zechariah and these other passages tell us that a plague will strike the nations. Their flesh will rot while they are still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in the sockets. Their tongues will rot in their mouths. On that day, men will be stricken by the Lord with great panic, and each man will attack each other. Even the beast that support the armies will be afflicted with this plague. Now, this plague is not defined. Some people say it's a nuclear war. Possibly, but God doesn't need a bomb to win. I mean, He showed that with the 185,000 Assyrians in one night that died. You know, he told Peter, after Peter cut off the Malchus's ear, he said, listen, I could call 12 legions of angels. So, you know, he doesn't need nuclear weapons to do this. Could be, but he doesn't need that. The battle isn't won by the engines of man, but by the power of God. And whatever this plague is, it is a most painful and complete destruction of these forces. As Revelation chapter 19, verses 15 and 21 state, the sword that came out of the mouth of the rider on the horse will be the means, the power of the victory. In other words, Jesus will simply speak the word. I'd love to know what that phrase would be. It's not stated. I mean, we could have a good time playing with that. You know, it is finished. It is done.
Hey, y'all watch this.
Hey, y'all watch this. You know.
I told you I'd be back.
Yeah, I told you I'd be back. Yeah. Told you, Stu. You know. Yeah, we could just go all right down the line. It's not given to us, but Jesus will just have to utter the word. And this plague, and this confusion, and this insanity that is enveloping the earth will turn inward on each other. And then Revelation step 7, Revelation 19, verse 20, Antichrist and false prophet are taken alive and cast as judgment into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur. That's the order of the battle. As much depression as I have given you over the last several weeks, talking about what's going to be going on with Israel in the future. The thing about it is, we win. We win. It's like, I've mentioned this before, a guy, and I'll wrap this up. I'm actually doing pretty good on my time. A guy who had cancer, Jack Williams, you remember Jack. And when he talked to us in our class and announced that he had terminal cancer, he in the class stated how he thought it was an honor to have this, to be able to glorify God. And he said, if, by the doctors and the medicines, I live, he said, I'll still be with my family. He said, but if I die, I go to heaven. He said, I still win. Now, that's a testimony. That is one time that really, and I think I mentioned it in the class, that I just needed to shut up and sit down as a teacher, because that's all that needed to be said right there in that class. I mean, it was so powerful. But as dark as things are, as Scripture gives to us for the tribulation, that's why it's called the tribulation period. That's what I say. I agree with you.
Broadcast just went live.
Yeah, broadcast just went live. Somebody's watching this somewhere saying, "Oh man, somebody get a straitjacket for that boy." We win. It is a tribulation period. God will move. Things are going to happen that ain't going to be pretty. But the thing about it is, as a believer, we win, regardless of what happens to us. We win. If we all die right now, we go to heaven. I think that's winning. You know what I'm saying? Now, most of us say, well, I'd really like to wait another 30 or 40 years. Not me. At this age, not me. No, not by any stretch. But we win. That's victory. That's good news. As you think about what is happening now, and as much as things feel crazy and out of your control, God is still in control. And we will be taken care of by Him. And even if, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, when Nebuchadnezzar told him, said, Now you either bow down or I'm going to throw you into this furnace. And who is that God that is going to be able to deliver you from my hand? Can't you just hear Antichrist echoing that? And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we ain't even going to take time to think about it, dude. I'm going to tell you something. Our God is able. But if he doesn't, we ain't bound. That's good. That's where we are. We're not bound. He is able. And he will deliver us from Antichrist. He will deliver us from those forces. One way or the other. We win. We win. Now, we probably will wrap this up next week. We're going to talk about Israel being realized. We're going to talk about some of the topographical changes that will take place as Jesus comes back to earth. And we'll be looking a little bit at what will be going on in the millennium, and we'll wrap this thing up and probably get ready to move into our discussion of how we got the Bible. So we'll look into that. So, thank you.